surprised you don't know. I'm always in Dave's office.
Good morning. Let's call the Economic Development Authority meeting for the City of Poquoson to order for December 1st of 2020. Charity, if we can start with a roll call, please.
Okay, Director Derby,
Here.
Director Yanello,
Here.
Director Metz,
Here.
Director Bowen,
Here.
Director Freeman, Director Fye, here, and Chairman Booth.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Charity.
Full house.
Full house. Certainly would like to welcome Bob as your first meeting here, and certainly glad that you volunteered to join our team. And welcome aboard.
Sorry, I couldn't be here.
Understood. There's still life that happens. We understand that. So for the start of today's meeting, we have a consent agenda, which includes our minutes from the November meeting and financial statement. Any comments or discussion of anything on the consent agenda?
Oh, on the minutes? No, I'm ahead of myself.
On the minutes, yeah.
On the minutes, I have
Yes.
on the minutes for the voting on the easement, I voted no,
Come.
and it says I voted yes. No, I should have said something earlier, but like you said, there's other things that come up in life.
So we have one.
Also, I failed to add our city attorney to the list, which I have changed since then, but we just to make comments about changes to the minutes.
We have two corrections on the minutes. One acknowledging that Director Yanello voted no on the new business easement request. And the second, Wayne Moore's attendance, our EDA attorney at the meeting for November. Additional comments? Looking for a motion for approval as amended.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second by Director. If we can call that for a vote.
Okay. Director, a motion to approve the consent agenda. Director Derby. Director Yanello.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Metz. Aye. Director Bowen.
Aye.
Director Freeman. Director Fye.
Here.
Yes. And Chairman Booth.
Aye. Thank you. So moving into our agenda for the day, we start our meeting with public comment. And not seeing any this morning, will move us into new business. We traditionally hold elections for EDA officer positions in April, at our April meeting. Unfortunately, due to some of the changeover that did occur on the EDA, we currently are without an EDA treasurer and are in need of filling that for the remainder of this period. Primarily, responsibility is coordinating with the city's finance director, who prepares and manages the books and the economic statements for the EDA. Didn't know if there was a volunteer who was willing to step up to help fill that position for the coming 4.5 months or 5 months that we have ahead of us in this.
I'll volunteer to do that.
Thank you. So we have a volunteer, as I think we do need to make an official vote for that. So if we can find a motion for Director Bowen to fill out the term. Have a motion. Have a second by Alan. If we can have a vote for that.
Cliff Bowman as treasurer for the EDA, Director Derby, Director Yanello,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Metz, Chairman Bowman.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Director, I promoted you. So you volunteered, look what happens. I'm sorry, Director Bowen, Director Freeman, Director Fye, and Chairman Booth.
Aye.
Congratulations, Cliff.
Thank you.
I have a good working relationship with the finance department from my previous experience with the city, so I think things will be very smooth in that way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up.
Sure, no problem.
We have one item under unfinished business. Last meeting, Dominion Energy was here to discuss an easement request across the Big Woods property on the north side of Victory Boulevard. At that meeting, we did ask for some supplemental information, which Dominion has generously provided, which includes a sample layout or sketch of possible above-grade improvements that would be necessary along that frontage, as well as an amendment of the right-of-way agreement that would limit this right-of-way to the improvements necessary for Dominion Power only, and that any subsequent utilities, communications, or otherwise that under normal circumstances could piggyback on an easement would have to come before the EDA to make their requests independent of Dominion's easement that's there. Have representatives from Dominion who have graciously agreed to show up, and is any words that you guys would like to say regarding any of this? So any questions of Dominion based upon the new information that's been provided? None. Is there a motion?
We're still working on that.
Been in a discussion on payment for this easement? What's the purpose of this easement? Is it the upcoming legacy project?
That's correct.
I see.
And it would prepare, any development on the north side would be prepared, ready access to power.
Anybody that develops it will get the easement.
Pardon?
Anybody that develops our property will obtain the easement. We don't have to do it now.
I don't think it makes any sense for future development of the EDA property to have another easement if we disapprove this and say you gotta go to the south side of Victory. Because then you'd have two easements and you're blocking two.
We'd be limited to the developer to obtain the easement.
Yes, but wouldn't it help in getting more economic businesses to want to come if you already had the easement there?
Access to the electricity.
Oh, I do. I mean, if you've got, okay, we've got power, now we can bring a business in and say, look, we've already got power to the business, we've provided the easement is going to happen whether they don't, I don't think they pay for it, but the easement's going to happen. So why not have an incentive? I mean, we're trying to get businesses to come into Poquoson, and just one little easier
We've had-
hurdle they don't have to
we've had
jump.
at least two contracts come in on that property, and probably one before me. And there's no other mention of having us provide them an easement.
I don't know that either of those deals ever got that far down the
Well, we
road
never
to.
got to the development stage.
Yep.
But we certainly got to the feasibility stage.
But that's the kind of thing that can definitely extend the deal and closing and everything else, even though they didn't necessarily bring it up as they get into the deal. If they're hunting easements for months and months, that's not necessarily beneficial to the cause. So, I hear where you're coming from, but
The other portion of it, given the fact that it's on Victory, we do have a minimum setback to any building of 45 feet. So from the right-of-way line, this clearly would be outside of any building footprint. And no parking within 25 feet of the right-of-way, which certainly we're not taking the developable portion of the property. Additional questions?
You got on your drawing here, this little green dot, says approximate placement of equipment on NBA policy. What equipment is that?
That's either a dummy cabinet or a split. A dummy cabinet or a split, it's a splicing point. It's a splicing point.
Oh,
It's either a dummy cabinet or a switch.
okay.
that's what we were talking about last time, where they would approximately. They can be moved if required. Is that a big deal? I mean, is that, okay.
Unless you happen to be driving by, trying to get by the construction site. No offense.
Has this easement been, you've got the tender easement from any other direction? Is it gonna involve that property?
Are we trying to pay?
Obtain an easement.
We're trying to obtain all the way down.
Yes, but any other way that you could, I mean, this, you've already commented, this is for the purpose of the legacy property.
Yes.
And other ways the legacy could be easement on the road. Huh?
Where?
They own the property up to the easement there. On, what's that ditch goes through there? They come through there.
On this
The
side?
one I think is involved.
Yeah. Coming in the backside of the property.
Oh, but because there was, because of that, the waterway.
Creek back there.
Wetlands.
Did they request this easement?
Legacy? I mean, it's for their property.
They did.
Yes.
Get the power, so they gotta go to ask them to do it, so that's.
I think that it's been looked at coming in from the York County side, and that's where most of the wetlands are as you come in from the York County side towards the legacy development on the south side. And so there's certainly impact there if they try to side.
He does bring up a good point, though. How many other easements are going to be required by legacy? Verizon, Cox, sewage, you know.
Yeah, we've,
As far as our easements, there, we do allow other companies within our easement document, but, we did remove the language, that they, was concerned that they were piggyback. We don't allow that. They would have to obtain their own easement, because our easement does not cover any of their facilities. But they could go in the same footprint that we are in.
Except for the fact that another easement, especially the cables, have to be 25 feet from yours, the electrical. Isn't there a requirement that they be spaced at least certain number of feet so that there's no interference? I mean, because that's my concern is that, you know, have we really looked at the long-term picture of legacy as far as where all the easements are going? I mean, because we could end up, you know, providing easements for the EDA property for all these other public service. And I'm not sure how much more room there is before you start, you know, I was just a concern, because I'm not that familiar with it. All I know is that I can't dig a hole in my property because I've got a 35-foot easement in the back of my yard. So, it does present a problem, because one side of my drainage ditch is Verizon, the other side is an easement for the electrical company. And they're only maybe 5-10 feet apart, but that eats up available. And it's not a question for you, it's more for the people that have been on this committee for a while, all two of you or three, that, have we looked at the other easement issues for the legacy? Are they gonna have to go through us too? Now, I understand we've crossed it off as far as piggybacking on the approval, but just concerned about the rest of the easements.
I understand what you said, though, was that they could still go along the same footprint where they are, they just have to get a separate approval from us. There won't be additional places, and we can approve or not approve those. So, and we asked them to take that off, so I mean, they're doing what we asked them to do. I think that
Okay.
I don't want to bounce back now and change our minds and now change it again.
No, I understand. I'm just I know there's water already there because you have fire hydrants there. And I believe there's also already a Verizon link on that side too.
Right.
There's
But I don't know.
sewer on that side of the street as well.
Is there?
Already.
Okay.
That's part of the reason that this easement is. Yep.
Right, yeah.
We did look at the sewer, and they haven't gone through the easement, and that is why we're having to go behind them, because they will not allow us to do their easement.
That's exactly right. In fact, I think what Julie was pointing out, the Verizon, those types of telecommunication easements are on this side of the ditch. So they don't really come into play. Those are existing ones. They wouldn't be. The only one that I'm familiar with that is on the other side of the ditch is HRSD. There aren't any other easements that have been granted by the EDA, period. So that's the only one I'm aware of, and I think you referenced that that's not an option for you, which is why you've come here today. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, thanks.
So they're already in, okay.
Part of the history, when the Victory Boulevard right-of-way was expanded, it was taken as if it was a full 4 lanes coming all the way in and beyond the city lines. So the right-of-way width there is as if it's set up for 4 lanes. Traffic very similar to what you see further up in York County. So the right-of-way width for Victory is much wider than developed footprint of Victory currently is. So is there any follow-up discussion or someone prepared to make a motion at this point?
So it sounds like there's not likely to be any other easement requests to share this footprint easement. But if there was, what was our thinking of saying we want to keep approving? I mean, personally, I don't have any qualms about other share access, as long as it's not in our building area. Do we want to just keep having meetings to approve of,
That's a great question. I think part of it was not knowing what the above grade improvements would or would not require with subsequent utilities, and trying to control at least the initial placement and the aesthetics to some degree of what those may or may not require. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it would be a communications provider more than likely, whether it's a Verizon, can't think of any other companies off the top of my head, but most of that, I think, was to control that above grade, not as much what's under the dirt, but what vaults and dummy boxes and other things may need to be there to facilitate those installations.
But just know that if we cannot obtain where I have shown, and it has to be on EDA property, I will definitely get all approval before we place anything. I mean, before, just so that we know that we're outside of any future development. I'll do the first one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion?
I think we're ready for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the Dominion Energy right-of-way agreement and the easement at proposed in today's packet.
I can add one statement pending final legal review and approval to that, so that we can let Wayne.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second by.
Okay, do you want to, you've read it pretty well, but here, let me go ahead and read it back. Approve Dominion Energy right-of-way agreement and easement as proposed pending final legal approval.
Yep.
Vote. Director Freeman? Director Yanella?
Yes.
Director Bowen?
Aye.
Director Kirby? Director Pai?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Metz?
Aye.
And Chairman Booth? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you, Charity. Thank you for you guys working through this with us. So that moves us to staff activities. Dave, or you or Charity taking the CARES grant?
I'm going to ask Charity to certainly contribute to the discussion with some specific details on how we're doing with the CARES grant. But as the authority will recall, at the last meeting several weeks ago, you all provided support and consent for us to increase the CARES grant business application funding from an amount of $2,000 to $5,000. And as we had indicated, for some reason, we weren't getting a massive amount of attention and participation at the $2,000 level. Well, I am pleased to note this morning that thanks to your support and action, we have gotten a significant amount of interest in application submission since that time. So much so that of the remaining $60,000 plus that we had indicated was still in the kitty, if you will, that money is spoken for. And we have been able to allocate and disperse about $47,000 of it and some additional funds with that. So I think, Charity, you correct me please if I'm wrong, but we have about $13,000, 13 plus, left to disperse, and we already have applications in the queue that would exceed that amount. So we will we'll be getting the review team together and taking action on that very soon. As you will recall also, the deadline we extended with your blessing to December the 8th to receive the applications. So what we have chosen to do is to continue to receive applications from the business community in chronological order, prioritized as they are submitted. In the eventuality that additional funding is identified and appropriated, and should that occur, we will engage those applications and provide funding, again, in the order it was received. And of course, it being an EDA program, we will continue to, engage the model we have with the review team, with the vetting, and then we're very hopeful that should additional funding be provided, that we will be able to come to you at the January meeting and let you know that every dime we have has been put into the Poquoson business community, who desperately needs it and will benefit greatly from it. And I would ask Charity, if I may, we're happy to entertain questions, but I would ask Charity, if you will, Charity, if you could let the authority know how many businesses have been helped thus far in the CARES grant. I appreciate it.
Granted, that first time they came in for the $2,000 grant and they've returned. So we only count those people one time, even though they've come back. But we've helped and actually provided checks to approximately 17 recipients at this time. 17 different businesses have been helped. And I have 9 applications waiting at this time for a total of about, $38,000 additional dollars. And we have the rest of the week to receive applications. So definitely need out there. And that's it. They are very appreciative, by the way. The businesses are very appreciative of receiving these funds to help them get through. And I think it's going to be a long winter, so
I was surprised that nobody wanted the 2,000, but as soon as you say 5,000, oh, okay, we got it, we got this.
That was our thought as well, but quite obviously, it made the difference, and both Charity and I are appreciative of the EDA's action because apparently that was the catalyst.
This is,
Very busy, and they have a hard time. I mean, I actually physically go over there and talk to them and get papers from them and provide things to, so I think it just puts them to the next step to, all right, let me get this done now. This is my last chance, so.
Does the most recent requirements by the governor, as far as the new restrictions, have any impact on that, as far as businesses putting up their hands saying that I'm never going to make it through this, I better get the money now? I mean, has any of the businesses said that this new round of closures and restrictions impacted on the businesses?
So far, Poquoson businesses have been both resilient and just positive. They're just working hard. They're changing things up as needed, and they're working very hard to continue, and I don't think any of them want to give in. They may close for a month or two or do something like that, but they have continued on. We haven't had as much of that as some other communities, I don't think, yet. But it's gonna, like I said, it's going to be a long winter. I think anything that we can do to help them, including patronizing our local businesses, is a good thing.
thank you, Dave, thank you, Charity, for continuing to press forward, and certainly glad to hear that the money is being put back into the local business community. Any final comments? Our next meeting date is scheduled for January 5th of 2021, which is hard to believe that already upon a new year.
Our next meeting is January 5th, 2020 on there.
I saw that.
Start over. I'm okay with that.
Over
Any final comments before we adjourn?
Well, there are two things that we wanted to bring up. One is we haven't introduced.
I briefly did at the start, yeah.
Okay, so we have introduced, and the other thing was the FOIA training issue. Can we discuss the potential ways to deal with that?
Certainly. So I don't think that there's a uniform solution that seems to work with the state's training that's been pushed down. And I think that's pretty clear. We've tried it on multiple browsers, multiple computers, and it seems to lock up and not let you past a certain point.
I did contact Richmond,
Okay.
and they sent me a link to a video version of the presentation
Okay.
at 8:01 this morning, so I didn't have time to look at it, and I forwarded it to Chessie so that she could look at it, but
Okay.
I don't know if it'll work or not. I mean,
So there's an alternate. If that doesn't work, one potential that was thrown out there, Wayne is able to provide it if we can kind of find a common date. I threw out the topic, not that I'm a real fan of doing a lot of stuff by video, but doing a Zoom or something like that so that Wayne could make the presentation once and we could have a captured audience for the 40 or 45 minutes that may be necessary to that as an alternate.
would that be done at the 5 January meeting after it?
So that's a gray area that we'll have to
Okay.
ask Wayne about for that.
The risk of stating the obvious, you've reported this. Their idea, it's their force-feeding issue. Let them fix their IT. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot to ask.
I agree. Rather than making us, okay, now you have to deal with this. Oh, look, fix this.
Well, there are other options. I've spoken to the state personally, and at this point, so is Ray, and Edie also. And and Wayne has said, this is a requirement. It's been a requirement for a while. Whether you can use the state's means of getting it done or not is not even relevant. It has to be done. He is willing to provide a one day. In fact, city council, there's a few city council people who are going to participate in that, and we can piggyback into that. He's going to do a 1 to 2 hour meeting, and just trying to fit everybody's schedule into that is the issue. The other thing is, January 5th was something that we considered. I mean, you know, at least we're getting it done, but technically, it is due before the end of this year. So,
Actually, the briefing says within 2 months of the appointment. I actually
Yeah,
listened to the
yes,
briefing. So I
yes,
mean,
you're right.
2 months of the appointment, you have to be FOIA certified, and it does not need to be done by Richmond. It's said right in there, you can be taught a class by somebody else, it just, you have to have gone through it. The problem is the certification, if you only get to the voter point portion, you can't get the certification, which is at the bottom. And when you start, you have to restart from the beginning. So,
but based on that, I will work with Evie. We will come up with when Wayne is going to make that presentation and offer that. We will also, I will send out today the link for this movie and see if that works, and if it does, that would take care of it. So, but I guess I wanted to call attention to the fact that this has to get done, and it's going to affect all of us, so.
Meanwhile, do you have a line of communication with someone there? Because every other EDA has got to be in the same situation, and I promise you, a lot of them, the bigger cities are saltier than we are, and not looking to go have a bunch of meetings. So let's monitor, because it could be fixed 2 days from now. All of a sudden, we're back in business.
I talked to him, he said they'd been working on this for a long time, and he understood the problem, their IT people aren't able to fix it. It happens. It's surprising, but it is. I think we just need to deal with it and get it done. Zoom meeting, or whether we attend Wayne Moore's.
If you have a Zoom
Got it
meeting, you
done. I
can
was
do
able to
it
get on
at
and
your
get it done. It
convenience.
took me a while, but I got it done.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Yeah.
And it printed out my certificate. So.
oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I can't get past the.
I had to switch
the same
computers. I did it on a PC, but it took me like 3 or 4 times before it finally loaded. But once it loaded, it went through the whole thing, and I got my certificate, and I've already given it to Evie.
I don't know.
So.
Okay, I'll keep trying that.
I tried, I mean, I went from my Apple to a PC, and I tried multiple times on my PC, and it wasn't just me. I had my husband, who's much more technically oriented than I am, but he couldn't get it to, we rebooted it, refreshed it.
I've tried doing
started
it.
over again.
I've tried doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning, assuming that the web or something was tied up, and it's still locked up. And I tried it again last night.
They should just issue you one with the effort you put in. I mean,
The weather must have been perfect that day.
Yeah, the wind wasn't
The band-
blowing as
the
hard as it
bandwidth.
was, yeah.
But yeah, but it's very similar to the same one that the city employees have to go through that are FOI direct officers, which I was. So it was not unlike that other training. Get on there, you do get the certificate at the end, which I printed out and put in.
Curious to see how the movie prints you a certificate.
It probably doesn't, and they have to take your word that you completed it. I don't know. I'll see when I go through it.
Yeah.
I've done video training before, and there is a certificate at the end.
Yeah, I have
You
too.
still have to go through it, yeah. Army.
Anybody that works, I work for the Army, and I mean, I can do training, but this is crazy.
Surprising.
Continue forward and try and keep the lines of communication open, and
Keep us
find
posted.
a opportunity to hopefully make that happen. Anything else prior to adjournment? Certainly thank everyone, and have a safe and happy holidays and a new year, and we'll see you in '21.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.